The screens went black at exactly 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Every television, every smartphone, every computer monitor on Earth died for 3 seconds. Then they all came back on at once, showing the same image. Commander Daewon was in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters when it happened. He had been reviewing supply reports, drinking his third coffee of the day, when his computer screen flickered. He looked up and saw his entire command center frozen, staring at their monitors. The image showed a creature unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It stood on 2 legs, but that was where the similarity to humans ended. Its skin was dark blue, almost black, with patterns that seemed to shift in the light. 4 eyes, arranged in a square pattern, stared out from the screen. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English and every other language on Earth simultaneously. "People of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was cold, mechanical, translated by technology humans didn't understand. "I am Tesseract, Supreme Overlord of the Vryn Sovereignty. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire." Daewon felt his stomach drop. First contact. This was supposed to be humanity's greatest moment. Scientists had dreamed about this day for centuries, but something about the creature's tone made his military instincts scream danger. "We rule 300 star systems," Tesseract continued. 647 species serve the sovereignty. Today you will witness what happens to those who refuse our generous offer." The image changed. Daewon saw a planet from space, beautiful and blue like Earth. Cities sparkled across its surface. Then the view zoomed down, showing streets filled with beings that looked almost human but with longer limbs and silver skin. "These are the Kalari," Tesseract's voice explained. "They rejected our terms. They chose resistance. Now you will watch them learn the price of that choice. What happened next would burn itself into the memory of every human alive." The Vryn ships appeared in the sky above the Kalari cities. They didn't fire immediately. Instead, they waited, letting the Kalari run and scream and try to hide. Then the beams came down. They were precise, surgical. The Vryn didn't destroy buildings. They targeted every living Kalari they could find. Dr. Hana burst into the command center 20 minutes into the broadcast. She was Earth's lead xenobiologist brought in to advise on alien contact scenarios. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "Is this real?" she asked Daewon. "Please tell me this is some kind of fake broadcast." "It's real," Daewon said quietly. "Our satellites confirm. There's a Vryn ship in orbit right now transmitting this." On the screens, the massacre continued. The Vryn were methodical. They went city by city, continent by continent. Every few minutes, Tesseract would appear again, providing commentary like he was narrating a nature documentary. "The Kalari population numbered 10 billion, he said at one point. "We have eliminated 2 billion so far. Notice the efficiency of our harvest ships. No resources are wasted." Hana turned away, her hand over her mouth. Around the command center, hardened military officers were crying. Some were praying. Others just stared in horror. Daewon forced himself to watch everything. He knew he had to. If Earth was going to survive what was coming, he needed to understand these aliens. He studied their ships, their weapons, their tactics. He watched how they moved, how they communicated, looking for any weakness. The broadcast lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of systematic genocide, shown live to the entire planet. By the end, the Kalari homeworld was silent. 10 billion people gone. Their cities stood empty, monuments to a murdered civilization. Then Tesseract appeared one final time. "People of Earth," he said, those 4 eyes staring out from every screen on the planet. "You have 30 days to make your choice. Surrender your autonomy to the sovereignty. Provide 10% of your population for labor integration. In return, the rest may live under our protection." He paused, and something that might have been a smile crossed his alien face. "Or refuse, like the Kalari. The choice is yours. We will return in 30 days for your answer." The screens went black again. This time they stayed dark for almost a minute before regular programming tried to resume. But nobody was watching television anymore. The world had stopped. Daewon sat in the emergency session of the United Earth Council 3 hours later. Every nation had sent representatives. Every face in the room showed the same expression: shock, grief, and growing rage. President Ji-won stood at the podium. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but when she spoke, her voice filled the chamber. "We all saw what happened today," she said. 10 billion innocent people murdered while we watched. And now these creatures, these Vryn, they expect us to surrender, to give them our people, our freedom. She looked around the room, making eye contact with every delegate. I will not negotiate with genocidal monsters, Jiwan said. I will not condemn 10% of humanity to slavery. I will not surrender our planet to creatures who commit atrocities and call them integration. A murmur ran through the chamber. The delegate from Russia stood. What choice do we have? He asked. You saw their technology, their power. They destroyed an entire planet in 6 hours. We have one choice, Jiwan replied. We fight. They'll destroy us, someone called out. Maybe, Jiwan acknowledged. But I would rather die fighting than live on my knees. I would rather Earth burn than see one human child dragged onto a Vryn slave ship. She took a breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was steel. I propose Operation Alien Extinct. Totalvar. No negotiation. No surrender. We have 30 days to prepare. We use every resource, every weapon, every brilliant mind on this planet. And when the Vryn return, we show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The chamber was silent. Then the delegate from Korea stood and began to clap. Others joined. Within seconds, the entire United Earth Council was on its feet, applauding. The vote was unanimous. Daewon watched from the observation gallery. His hands were clenched into fists. He had spent his entire career preparing for wars that never came, training for threats that seemed imaginary. Now the threat was real, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. Dr. Hana found him after the session ended. Can we actually do this? She asked. Can we fight them? Daewon looked at her. He thought about the Kalari, about those final moments of their civilization broadcast across the galaxy. He thought about humanity's history, about every time his species had faced impossible odds. I don't know if we can win, he said honestly, but I know we can make them regret ever finding Earth. Around the world, the same conversation was happening. In homes and bars, in military bases and research facilities, humanity was making a choice. Fear was turning into anger. Despair was hardening into determination. The Vryn had made a mistake. They had shown humanity exactly what they were capable of. They thought it would inspire surrender. Instead, it ignited something far more dangerous. 30 days. 30 days to turn a planet of separate nations into a unified war machine. 30 days to find a way to fight an empire that spanned the stars. 30 days to prepare for a battle that would decide whether humanity lived free or died fighting. In his office, Daewon pulled up classified files he had hoped never to use. Deep black projects. Experimental weapons. Theoretical tactics for fighting aliens. Everything that had seemed like paranoid fantasy yesterday was now desperately necessary. His phone rang. It was Admiral Tae Yang, his old instructor from the military academy. Commander, the Admiral said, I need you in the Pacific. There's something you need to see. Something we've been building just in case. Just in case of what? Taewon asked. Just in case someone decided to threaten Earth, Tae Yang replied. Get on a plane. Operation Alien Extinct starts now. Daewon grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Behind him on the screen, the last image of the Kalari homeworld remained frozen. A reminder. A motivation. A promise. The Vryn would return in 30 days. Humanity would be ready. The submarine descended for 3 hours before reaching the facility. Daewon watched through the small window as darkness swallowed everything. They were going deeper than any civilian vessel could travel, down to a part of the Pacific Ocean that didn't exist on any public map. Admiral Tae Yang sat across from him, silent for most of the journey. The old man had aged since Daewon last saw him, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. How long has this place existed? Daewon finally asked. 27 years, Tae Yang replied. Since the WOW signal. Since we realized we might not be alone in the universe. Some people thought we should prepare for friends. I thought we should prepare for enemies. The submarine docked with a hollow clang. Doors opened, revealing a massive underwater facility carved into the ocean floor. Lights stretched away in every direction, illuminating corridors and chambers that seemed to go on forever. Welcome to Prometheus Base, Tae Yang said. Welcome to humanity's insurance policy. Daewon followed the Admiral through corridors filled with people. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, all moving with urgent purpose. The facility was huge, easily housing thousands. How had this stayed secret? We recruited from every nation, Tae Yang explained, reading his thoughts. The best minds, the best warriors. People who could keep secrets. People who understood that humanity needed a backup plan. They entered a command center that made Daewon's headquarters look primitive. Holographic displays showed Earth from orbit, tracking the single Vryn ship that waited above the planet like a patient predator. Other screens showed designs for weapons, ships, and technology that seemed decades ahead of anything Daewon knew existed. For 30 years, we've been developing one thing, Taeyang said. Ways to fight enemies more advanced than us. Ways to win when victory should be impossible. He pulled up a display showing sleek ships unlike anything in Earth's current space fleet. Meet the Revenge-class corvettes. Stealth capabilities beyond anything the Vryn have encountered. We've been tracking their ships' sensor sweeps. They're powerful but predictable. These corvettes can slip past them. How many do we have? Daewon asked. 12. Not enough for a war, but enough for a statement. Over the next 3 days, Daewon met the people who would form the core of Operation Alien Extinct. Each one had been selected carefully, brought to Prometheus Base and told the truth. Earth had enemies out there, and someday, humanity would need to fight. Captain Hyunwoo was the first pilot Daewon interviewed. The young man had been flying experimental craft for 5 years, testing ships that officially didn't exist. I can fly anything, Hyunwoo said confidently. Human-alien doesn't matter. Give me a cockpit and I'll make it dance. The Vryn ships are faster than ours, Daewon pointed out. Speed isn't everything, Hyunwoo replied with a grin. They fly like they're invincible, like they've never had to dodge or weave or fight for their lives. I've been training for combat in 3 dimensions my entire career. Let's see how good they really are. Lieutenant Sujin was different. She was quiet, efficient, deadly. Her file showed she had trained in 17 different combat systems, mastered zero-gravity fighting, and led black operations missions that remained classified even here. Can you board a Vryn ship? Daewon asked her directly. I can board anything with an airlock, Sujin replied. The question is whether I can take it intact. I need their technology, Daewon said. I need prisoners for interrogation. I need intelligence, Sujin nodded once. Then I'll get you all 3. Engineer Jae-hyun was young, barely 25, but his mind worked differently than anyone Daewon had ever met. Within hours of seeing Vryn technology from the broadcast, he had started sketching out theories about how it worked. Their power systems use quantum entanglement, Jae-hyun explained, his hands moving rapidly over holographic diagrams. It's elegant, efficient, but rigid. They've optimized everything for stability. That means there's no flexibility, no room for adaptation. And that helps us how? Daewon asked. It means we can be creative, Jae-hyun said, grinning. They've spent centuries making perfect systems. We've spent centuries making systems that work even when everything goes wrong. In a fair fight, they win. But who says we have to fight fair? Dr. Hana had been brought to Prometheus Base along with Daewon. Her expertise in biology was crucial. She had spent the past 3 days analyzing every frame of the Vryn broadcast, studying their physiology, looking for weaknesses. They have cybernetic implants, she explained, showing Daewon microscopic images she'd enhanced from the broadcast, neural interfaces connecting their brains directly to their technology. It makes them efficient, but it's also a vulnerability. Explain, Daewon said. Hit them with the right electromagnetic frequency and those implants will overload, Hana said. We're running simulations now. If we can develop a weapon that targets their neural interface, we might be able to disable them without killing them. Why would we want to disable them? Someone asked. Hana looked up, her expression serious. Because genocide is what they do. We need to be better than that. We can fight to win without becoming what we hate. The final member of the core team was Intelligence Officer Min Seo. She had spent her entire career in signals intelligence, intercepting and decoding messages that people tried to keep secret. Now she was working on the Vryn language. They're not as careful as they think, Min Seo explained, showing intercepted transmissions from the Vryn ship in orbit. They broadcast constantly, updating their command, reporting on Earth's military movements. They think we can't understand them. Can we? Daewon asked. Not yet, but I'm learning. Their language is mathematical, structured. Give me 2 weeks and I'll be able to understand basic communications. Give me 4 weeks and I'll be able to predict their fleet movements before they make them. Daewon assembled his team in a secure briefing room. 7 people, including himself. 7 people who would try to strike the first blow against an empire that controlled 300 star systems. We have 24 days until the Vryn deadline, Daewon said. But we're not waiting. In 5 days, we launch the first attack. He pulled up a star map showing the nearest star system beyond Earth's sun. This is the Vryn monitoring station. It's 3 light-years away, watching 50 systems, including ours. If we're going to fight this war, we start by cutting off their eyes. 1 station against 12 ships, Hyunwoo said thoughtfully. I like those odds. We go in fast, hit hard, and get out, Daewon continued. Sujin, you lead the boarding team. I want prisoners. I want their computers intact. I want every piece of intelligence we can grab. Understood, Sujin said. Jae-hyun, you'll analyze everything we capture. Find their weaknesses. Find ways to hack their systems. The engineer nodded eagerly. Hana, you'll interrogate any Vryn we take alive. Find out everything about their biology, their psychology, their culture. I'll need equipment, Hana said. Whatever you need, you'll have it, Admiral Tae-yang promised from the back of the room. Min-seo, you'll handle communications. I want to know everything they're saying before, during, and after the attack. The intelligence officer smiled slightly. I'll have their conversations decoded before they finish having them. Daewon looked at his team. These 7 people were about to start a war with an interstellar empire. The odds were impossible. The enemy was more advanced in every way. Logic said they should surrender, should save the lives they could save. But logic didn't account for what the Vryn had shown them. Logic didn't understand the rage that burned in every human heart after watching 10 billion innocent people murdered. Logic couldn't measure the determination of a species that refused to kneel. One more thing, Daewon said quietly. My sister, Dr. Young-mi, is working on a weapon. She calls it the Sunbreaker. It's experimental, probably unstable, definitely dangerous. But if it works, it could turn the tide of an entire battle. What does it do? Hyunwoo asked. It creates a miniature sun, Daewon replied. Just for a second. But that second would vaporize anything within 1,000 kilometers. The room was silent. That's insane, Jae-hyun said. Then he grinned. I love it. Over the next 5 days, the team trained constantly. They ran simulations of the attack, practicing every possible scenario. Hyunwoo flew practice runs in the new corvettes, pushing them to their limits. Sujin drilled her boarding team until they could breach a hull in under 30 seconds. Daewon barely slept. He reviewed intelligence reports, studied Vryn tactics from the broadcast, and planned for every contingency. At night, he watched the footage of the Kalari genocide again, forcing himself to remember why they were doing this. Dr. Young-mi visited him on the 3rd day. His younger sister had always been the brilliant one in the family, the physicist who saw the universe in equations and possibilities. The Sunbreaker is ready, she said, showing him a device the size of a briefcase. I can't guarantee it won't destroy your ship too. That's comforting, Daewon said dryly. I'm serious, Young-mi insisted. This weapon uses principles we barely understand. It could save you. It could kill you. Promise me you'll only use it as a last resort. Daewon took the device carefully. I promise. Young-mi hugged him suddenly. Come back alive. Mom already lost Dad, she can't lose you too. I'll do my best, Daewon said softly. The journey through hyperspace felt like falling through a tunnel of light. Daewon gripped the arms of his command chair as Seoul's Vengeance dropped back into normal space 3 light-years from Earth. Around him, 11 other corvettes materialized silently, their stealth systems already active. Sensors clear, Min-seo reported from her station. They haven't detected us yet. Through the view screen, Daewon saw the Vryn monitoring station. It was massive, a dark structure that looked like a star made of metal and weapons. Red lights pulsed across its surface, and smaller ships moved in and out like insects around a hive. That thing is bigger than I expected, Hyunwoo muttered from the pilot's seat. Scan it, Daewon ordered. I want to know everything. Weapons, shields, weak points, all of it. The crew worked in focused silence. Daewon watched the data stream across his displays. The station had enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Its shields could withstand sustained bombardment. 12 corvettes shouldn't be able to touch it. Good thing they weren't planning to fight fair. I've identified their communications array, Min-seo said. It's on the northern section, minimally defended. If we take that out first, they can't call for help. Weak point in the shield generators, Jae-hyun added, his fingers flying over holographic controls. See this section here? The shields overlap, but there's a gap for 0.3 seconds every time they cycle. It's tiny, but if we time it perfectly... We can slip through, Daewon finished. He looked at Sujin, who was checking her equipment with her usual calm efficiency. How many people in your boarding team? 20, Sujin replied. Enough to take the command center and hold it long enough to extract prisoners and data. Daewon nodded. All ships, this is Seoul's vengeance. You know the plan. Hyunwoo leads the fighter screen. Keep them confused and off balance. Sujin breaches during the chaos. The rest of us provide cover. We have one shot at this. Make it count, Commander, Hana said quietly from beside him. Remember, we need prisoners alive. We need to understand them. I remember, Daewon assured her. Then louder, all ships attack formation. Begin the operation in 3, 2, 1, now. Seoul's vengeance shot forward, accelerating hard. The other corvettes spread out, each one moving toward their assigned targets. For 30 seconds, the Vrin station didn't react. They weren't expecting an attack. They had never been attacked before. Then every alarm on the station must have started screaming at once. Hyunwoo peeled away from the main formation, his corvette dancing through space like a knife through water. 2 Vrin patrol ships moved to intercept him. He waited until the last second, then flipped his ship end over end, his weapons blazing. The first Vrin ship exploded. The second one tried to turn, but Hyunwoo was already behind it, his guns tearing through its engines. This is too easy, Hyunwoo shouted over the comm. They fly like they're on parade. Don't get cocky, Daewon warned, but he was smiling. The pilot was right. The Vrin flew in perfect formations, predictable patterns. They had never learned to be creative because they had never needed to be. Seoul's vengeance reached the communications array. Daewon locked weapons and fired. The entire northern section of the station exploded in a flash of light. Now the Vrin couldn't call for reinforcements. They were alone, cut off, and under attack by an enemy they didn't understand. Shield gap opening in 5 seconds. Jae-hyun announced. 4, 3, 2, 1, now. 3 corvettes, including Sujin's transport, shot through the microscopic gap in the shields. They attached to the station's hull like parasites. Daewon watched on his screen as Sujin's team cut through the outer airlock in 28 seconds. Exactly as they had practiced. We're in. Sujin's voice came through the comm, calm and professional. Encountering resistance? Engaging. Daewon could only imagine what was happening inside that station. Sujin and her team were fighting room to room, corridor to corridor against enemies who had better weapons and armor. But the humans had something the Vrin didn't. They had trained for this their entire lives. Outside, the battle continued. More Vrin ships launched from the station, trying to organize a defense. But Hyunwoo and the other pilots were everywhere at once, striking from unexpected angles, never staying still long enough to be targeted. Multiple contacts launching from the station's main bay, Minseo warned. 20 ships, no 30. They're trying to swarm us. All ships, defensive formation around the breach point, Daewon ordered. We don't leave until Sujin gets what we came for. Seoul's vengeance spun, its weapons tracking multiple targets. Daewon's crew worked with practiced precision, calling out targets and coordinating fire. A Vrin fighter exploded to their left. Another one to their right, but there were so many and they kept coming. Hull breach on deck 3, someone shouted. They're trying to board us. Seal that section, Daewon ordered. Security team, repel boarders. We are not losing this ship. Inside the station, Sujin reached the command center. She had lost 3 people getting there, but her team had fought with brutal efficiency. The door was sealed, made of metal that their cutting tools couldn't penetrate quickly. Jae-hyun, I need this door open, she said into her comm. Working on it, the engineer replied from Seoul's vengeance. He was trying to hack into the station systems remotely, using the access point Sujin's team had established. Their security is... Actually, it's not as good as I thought. Give me 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours. Sujin and her team held the corridor as Vrin soldiers tried to force them back. The aliens were bigger, stronger, their weapons more powerful. But humans were smaller targets, faster movers, and much more desperate. Doors open, Jae-hyun announced. Sujin threw a flashbang through the opening and went in fast. The command center was large, filled with holographic displays and alien technology. 3 Vrin stood at the controls, their 4 eyes wide with shock. They reached for weapons. Don't move, Sujin shouted, her gun trained on the nearest one. Her translator device screamed the words in the Vrin language. Surrender or die. The center Vrin, who wore markings that suggested command rank, made a move toward a control panel. Sujin shot him in the leg. The alien fell, screaming in pain. The other two froze. Better, Sujin said. Bind them. Grab everything that looks like a computer or data storage. We have 2 minutes before this whole station realizes we're in their brain. Her team moved fast, securing the prisoners and pulling data cores from their terminals. One soldier found what looked like a safe and blasted it open, revealing physical records and strange devices they couldn't identify. Package secured, Sujin reported. We're coming out. Copy that, Daewon replied. All ships prepare for extraction. Hyunwoo, clear us a path. With pleasure, the pilot replied. His corvette shot forward, weapons blazing. He flew straight at the largest Vrin ship, firing the entire time. At the last second, he rolled, passing so close his shield scraped theirs. The Vrin ship tried to follow, but Hyunwoo had already reversed course and his wingmen were waiting. The Vrin ship died in crossfire. Sujin's team fought their way back to the breach point. They had started with 20 people and were coming back with 15. 5 brave souls who would never see Earth again. But they had the prisoners, they had the data, and they had proved something important. Humanity could fight. Humanity could win. All teams fall back to the rally point, Daewon ordered. The corvettes disengaged, their stealth systems activating again as they put distance between themselves and the station. The Vrin tried to pursue, but they were confused, disorganized. Their perfect systems had been disrupted by chaos they weren't designed to handle. 20 minutes later, all 12 corvettes jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the crippled station behind. On Seoul's vengeance, Daewon walked down to the holding cell where they had placed the Vrin prisoners. There were 2 of them, including the commander Sujin had shot. Dr. Hana was already there, studying them with scientific interest. The Vrin commander looked up at Daewon with its 4 eyes. When it spoke, the translator rendered its words in cold, precise English. You have made a mistake, human. You have attacked the sovereignty. You will all die for this. Maybe, Daewon agreed, but you're going to tell us everything we need to know first. Your technology, your tactics, your fleet positions, everything. I will tell you nothing, the Vrin said. Daewon smiled, though there was no humor in it. We'll see. Dr. Hana here is very interested in your biology, in those implants in your brain. I wonder what happens if we send the right electromagnetic pulse through them. The Vrin's expression changed. Fear. Good. They could feel fear. That would be torture, the alien protested. No, Daewon corrected. Torture is what you did to the Kalari. Torture is broadcasting genocide for 6 hours. What we're doing is called survival, and we're very good at it. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. I want you to send a message to your overlord. Tell Tesseract that humanity says hello.
Tell him we're not waiting for his deadline.
Tell him we're coming for him. In the command center, Minseo was already preparing to broadcast Daewon's message across Vrin communication networks. It would reach every station, every ship, every corner of their empire. The message was simple, recorded in the Vrin language, so there would be no confusion. The Vrin Armada arrived 15 days after Daewon's attack on the monitoring station. 300 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, a fleet so massive it blocked out the stars. Admiral Tae-yang stood in the command center of Prometheus Base, watching the enemy fleet on his displays. Each Vrin ship was larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could withstand nuclear blasts. By every measure, Earth had already lost. How long until they reach Earth? President Ji-won asked. She had come to Prometheus Base personally, refusing to hide in any bunker. At their current speed, 6 hours, Tae-yang replied. They're moving slowly. They want us to see them coming. They want us to be afraid. Are our ships in position? Ji-won asked. Tae-yang nodded. 80 vessels positioned around Jupiter. It's not enough, but it's what we have. It will have to be enough, Ji-won said firmly. The plan was simple because it had to be. Earth couldn't match the Vrin in a straight fight. So they wouldn't fight straight. They would use the solar system itself as a weapon, turning humanity's home territory into a trap the Vrin wouldn't see coming. Daewon stood on the bridge of Seoul's vengeance, positioned with the fleet near Jupiter's orbit. His crew had been working without sleep for days preparing for this battle. They had studied the intelligence from the captured Vrin station, analyzed their tactics, identified every weakness they could find. It still might not be enough. Contacts accelerating, Minseo announced. They've spotted our fleet. The entire armada is changing course, heading straight for us. Good, Daewon said quietly. That's exactly what we want. Captain Hyunwoo, commanding his own corvette now, spoke over the comm channel. They really think 80 ships can stop them? They must think we're insane. We are insane, Daewon replied. That's what makes us dangerous. All ships hold formation. Wait for them to enter the kill zone. The Vryn armada approached like a wall of metal and fire. They flew in perfect formation, 300 ships moving as one. It was beautiful in a terrible way, like watching an avalanche approach knowing you stood in its path. On the Vryn flagship Eternal Dominion, Overlord Tesseract studied the human fleet with contempt. 80 ships against 300? These primitives were more foolish than he had thought. They should have surrendered. Now they would die. Forward weapons, prepare to fire, he ordered. I want every human ship destroyed. Leave nothing but debris. His tactical officer nodded. Their formation is concentrated around the large gas planet. Shall we avoid it? No, Tesseract said. We go through them. Let them watch their fleet burn before we glass their planet. The armada accelerated, closing the distance. 5 million kilometers, 4 million, 3 million. They're entering the outer marker, Jae-hyun announced from his engineering station. Stealth mines are activating. Space around the Vryn fleet suddenly filled with explosions. Hundreds of quantum mines, invisible until they detonated, tore into the armada's flanks. 20 ships exploded immediately. 30 more were damaged, their shields flickering. Now, Daewon shouted. All ships, full attack! Hit them while they're confused. The human fleet surged forward. Hyunwoo led the charge, his corvette dancing between the massive Vryn dreadnoughts firing at their shield generators and weapon systems. The other pilots followed his lead, using speed and maneuverability to compensate for inferior firepower. But the Vryn recovered quickly. Their ships turned, their weapons tracking targets. When they fired back, their beams cut through human ships like they were paper. The destroyer Incheon Brave exploded. The cruiser Tokyo Rising broke in half, its crew lost in an instant. We're losing ships too fast, Admiral Tae-yang said from Prometheus Base. Activate Phase 2. Daewon typed commands into his console. All ships fall back to Jupiter. Lead them into the gravity well. The human fleet retreated, seemingly in disarray. The Vryn pursued, eager to finish them. Their ships dove deeper into Jupiter's massive gravitational field. Chasing the fleeing humans. Satellites activating, Minseo reported. Around Jupiter, hidden satellites came to life. Dr. Hana's research had revealed that Vryn neural implants were vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. The satellites began broadcasting those frequencies at maximum power, amplified by Jupiter's own magnetic field. The effect on the Vryn crews was immediate and catastrophic. Inside their ships, Vryn soldiers collapsed, their neural implants overloading. Overlord Tesseract screamed, clutching his head as pain shot through his brain. All across the armada, ships lost control as their crews fell unconscious or died. 80 Vryn ships, suddenly uncontrolled, crashed into each other or tumbled into Jupiter's atmosphere. The gas giant swallowed them whole, crushing them with pressures no ship could withstand. It's working, Hana shouted from her station. The frequency is disrupting their implants. But the Vryn adapted quickly. Warning systems activated automatically, and the surviving ships activated shielding that blocked the electromagnetic attacks. They began to reorganize, their crews recovering. 220 ships remained, still more than enough to crush Earth's fleet. Phase 3, Tae-yang ordered grimly. Release the swarm. From hidden positions around Jupiter's moons, thousands of small drones launched. They were simple machines, barely more than engines and explosives, but there were so many of them. They swarmed the Vryn fleet like angry bees, overwhelming their point defense systems. The Vryn started taking losses again, their ships exploding under concentrated drone strikes. But they kept pushing forward, accepting casualties to reach the human fleet. Their commanders had realized the truth. If they could destroy the human ships, the battle was won. Seoul's vengeance shuddered as a Vryn beam grazed its shields. Daewon gripped his chair, watching crew stations spark and smoke. They couldn't take many more hits like that. Hull integrity at 60%, Jae-hyun reported. Shields are failing. Life support is damaged. Keep us in the fight, Daewon ordered. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Seoul's vengeance. We're not running. We're not hiding. For the Kalari. For Earth. For every innocent life they've taken. Make them pay for every meter of space. The human fleet rallied. Damaged ships that should have retreated instead turned for one final attack. The destroyer Sol Unity, its engines dead and hull breached, rammed a Vrin cruiser at full speed, both ships exploding in a massive fireball. Hyunwoo's corvette had lost half its weapons and most of its shields. But he kept fighting, kept dodging, kept being the impossible target the Vrin couldn't quite hit. "Come on!" he shouted at his enemies. "I'm right here. Try to catch me." But the numbers were impossible. Earth's fleet was down to 40 ships, then 30, then 20. "Admiral," President Ji-won said quietly in Prometheus Base. "It's time." Tae-yang nodded slowly. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. He opened a channel to Dr. Young-mi's laboratory. "Doctor, deploy the Sunbreaker." Young-mi's face appeared on screen, pale but determined. "Are you certain? The calculations show a 30% chance it could destroy our own fleet." "I'm certain," Tae-yang said. "Do it." Sol's Vengeance received the signal. Dae-won looked at the briefcase-sized device secured in a special compartment. His sister's prototype, the weapon that might save them or kill them all. "All human ships, emergency jump to the following coordinates," Dae-won broadcast. "Jump in 30 seconds. Do not delay." He didn't explain why. There wasn't time. The surviving human ships began emergency hyperspace jumps, disappearing from the battlefield. The Vrin, confused, watched them flee. Victory seemed assured. Then Dae-won activated the Sunbreaker and placed it in a drone. The drone shot forward, directly into the center of the Vrin formation. "Jump now!" Jae-hyun shouted. Sol's Vengeance jumped to hyperspace 1 second before the Sunbreaker detonated. For a brief moment, a new sun appeared in Jupiter's orbit. The fusion reaction consumed everything within 1,000 kilometers. 100 Vrin ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly. Another 50 were crippled by the heat and radiation. When the human fleet returned to normal space, they found a battlefield transformed. Only 70 Vrin ships remained functional, and they were scattered, disorganized, their formation shattered. "All ships," Dae-won ordered, his voice hoarse. "One more push. End this." The human fleet, now numbering only 18 ships, charged the surviving Vrin vessels. They were outnumbered, outgunned, running on damaged systems and pure determination. But the Vrin were shaken, their confidence broken. These humans had done the impossible again and again. Then Eternal Dominion, the Vrin flagship, emerged from behind a crippled dreadnought. It was enormous, 5 times the size of Sol's Vengeance, and it was heading straight for Dae-won's ship. "Incoming transmission," Minseo said. Overlord Thesserac's face appeared on screen. 3 of his 4 eyes were damaged, bleeding, but hatred burned in the remaining eye. "You," he said, recognizing Dae-won. "You did this. You primitive, insignificant creature. I will kill you personally." "You can try," Dae-won replied. "But you made a mistake, Overlord. You showed us what you are. You gave us a reason to fight. And humans are very good at fighting when we have a reason. Your ship is damaged. Your fleet is destroyed. You have nothing left," Dae-won smiled. "I have everything I need." 3 months after the Battle of Jupiter, Admiral Tae-yang stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the Dae-won's Legacy. It was built using captured Vrin technology, improved by human engineering, and powered by determination that wouldn't quit. Around him, a fleet of 200 ships prepared for the next phase of Operation Alien Extinct. Earth hadn't stopped building after the Vrin retreated. Every nation had contributed resources. Every factory had been converted to war production. Humanity had learned something important. The galaxy was dangerous, and only strength would keep them free. "Admiral, we're receiving signals from the Kalari system," Minseo reported from her station. She had survived the Battle of Jupiter in one of the few ships that escaped. Now she served as the fleet's chief intelligence officer. "Multiple species are broadcasting messages. They're calling it a rebellion." Tae-yang allowed himself a small smile. "The Vrin showed the galaxy what happens when you resist. We showed them what happens when you fight back. It seems others are learning the lesson." Captain Hyunwoo, now commanding his own battle group, appeared on the comm screen. He had been promoted 3 times in 3 months, his tactical genius recognized and rewarded. "Admiral, my scouts report Vrin forces retreating from 6 systems. They're abandoning entire planets." "They're afraid," Tae-yang said. "Good, let them be afraid. For centuries they spread fear across the galaxy. Now it's their turn to feel it. On Earth, Dr. Hanna worked with representatives from 12 different alien species. They had come to Earth seeking alliance, seeking hope, seeking the humans who had accomplished the impossible. The Vryn Empire was collapsing, and species that had been enslaved for generations were fighting for freedom. "The Kalari survivors want to meet with you," one of the aliens said. It was a small creature with silver skin, one of only 1,000,000 Kalari who had survived the genocide. "They call your people saviors." "We're not saviors," Hanna replied gently. "We just did what anyone should do when they witness evil. We stood up and fought back." "Most species didn't," the Kalari said quietly. "Most species looked away, or surrendered, or tried to appease the Vryn. You alone said no." Hanna thought about Commander Daewon, about the thousands who had died in the Battle of Jupiter, about the price humanity had paid for that single word. "No, come with me," she said. "There's something you should see." She took the Kalari and the other alien representatives to the memorial that had been built in orbit of Earth. It was a massive structure, visible from the surface, containing the names of every Kalari who had died in the genocide. Below those names were the names of the humans who had died fighting to avenge them. "We remember," Hanna said simply. "We will always remember." Meanwhile, the human fleet was moving deep into former Vryn territory. Their mission was clear: liberate occupied worlds, capture Vryn leadership, and dismantle the Empire piece by piece. Not through genocide, humanity had been very clear about that, but through justice. Lieutenant Su Jin, now a colonel, led ground forces on the liberation missions. Her teams moved from planet to planet, freeing slave populations and securing Vryn military installations. The Vryn soldiers they encountered were often surprised when humans took them prisoner instead of executing them. "Why do you spare us?" one captured Vryn officer asked Su Jin. "We showed you no mercy." "Because we're not you," Su Jin replied. "We fight to win, but we don't fight to become monsters. You'll face trial for your crimes. That's justice. Killing you here would just be revenge." The officer looked at her with confusion. The concept seemed foreign to Vryn thinking. "Your empire survived by making examples of entire species," Su Jin continued. "You thought fear would keep you in power forever. But fear only works until someone stops being afraid. We stopped being afraid the moment you broadcast that genocide. You showed us your worst, and we decided we'd rather die than submit to it." 6 months after the Battle of Jupiter, Admiral Taeyang's fleet reached the Vryn homeworld. It was a dark planet, heavily industrialized, surrounded by defense stations that had once seemed impregnable. Now they were silent, their crews having abandoned them when they saw the human fleet approach. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Mincio announced. "Admiral, you're on." Taeyang looked at the camera, knowing his words would be heard across the entire Vryn homeworld. When he spoke, it was in the Vryn language, translated perfectly by the systems humanity had captured and improved. "People of the Vryn sovereignty," he began. "Your empire is ended. Your fleets are destroyed or scattered. Your overlord is dead, killed by a human commander who chose to sacrifice himself to end the tyranny you spread across 300 worlds." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We could destroy your planet. We have the weapons. We have the justification. You murdered 10 billion innocent beings and broadcasted to the galaxy. No court would convict us for ending you. On the Vryn homeworld, billions watched and listened, expecting death. But we won't," Taeyang continued, "because we fight for justice, not vengeance. Your leadership will face trial. Your military will be dismantled. Your territory will be freed, but your people will live, confined to this system, under galactic supervision. You will have the chance to become something better than you were. That's more mercy than you ever showed anyone else." 3 weeks later, the trials began. They were held on Earth, broadcast across the galaxy so every species could witness justice being done. The surviving Vryn High Command sat in courts designed by dozens of species, facing judges from worlds they had oppressed. Dr. Hanna testified about the Kalari genocide, presenting evidence that made even hardened diplomats weep. Su Jin testified about Vryn military operations, about the systematic cruelty that had been standard procedure. Engineer Jae Hyun, who had survived the Battle of Jupiter, presented technical evidence showing the Vryn had the capability to occupy worlds without killing billions, but had chosen genocide as a tool of terror. The trials lasted 3 months. The verdicts were unanimous. The Vryn leadership was found guilty of crimes against sentient life on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Their punishment was permanent exile on a remote world under surveillance, where they would live with what they had done but could never harm anyone again. A year after the Battle of Jupiter, representatives from 200 species gathered on Earth for a historic meeting. President Ji-wan, now leading not just Earth but the movement for a new galactic order, stood before them. "We have a choice," she said. "We can return to the old ways where the strong dominated the weak, where fear ruled, where genocide was an acceptable tool of empire. Or we can create something new." She gestured to the holographic display showing star systems across the galaxy. "I propose the Galactic Commonwealth, a federation of free worlds where no species holds dominance, where disputes are settled through diplomacy, not war, where every world has a voice regardless of their military power." There was silence. Then the Kalari representative stood. "The Kalari people support this proposal. We learned what happens in a galaxy without justice. We will not let that happen again." One by one, other species stood. Some were former Vryn subjects grateful for freedom. Others were neutral powers who had watched the Vryn's tyranny and done nothing, now ashamed of their silence. All of them recognized that Earth had shown them a different way. The vote was nearly unanimous. The Galactic Commonwealth was born. 10 years later, Earth had changed beyond recognition. The planet was now the diplomatic heart of the Commonwealth, hosting embassies from 300 species. Human ships patrolled free space lanes, protecting trade and ensuring no new empire could rise. General Su-jin commanded the Commonwealth peacekeeping forces, training soldiers from dozens of species in the tactics that had defeated the Vryn. She often thought about Commander Daewon and the others who hadn't survived to see what they had built. Dr. Hana had become the Commonwealth's ambassador at large, traveling between worlds and helping species rebuild after generations of Vryn oppression. She had written a book about the Kalari, ensuring their story would never be forgotten. Captain Hyunwoo, now an admiral himself, led exploration fleets discovering new worlds and making peaceful contact with previously unknown species. He flew with the confidence of someone who had faced the worst the galaxy could offer and survived. Engineer Jae-hyun ran the Commonwealth's technology sharing program, ensuring that advances were distributed equally. The Vryn had hoarded knowledge as a tool of control. Humanity shared it as a tool of cooperation. Min Seo directed Commonwealth intelligence, watching for threats and ensuring that no new tyranny could take root. She had learned that eternal vigilance was the price of freedom. Admiral Tae Yang had retired, but he still served as an advisor to the Commonwealth Council. He spent his days writing the official history of Operation Alien Extinct, ensuring future generations would understand what had been sacrificed and why. On the 10th anniversary of the Battle of Jupiter, a ceremony was held at the Orbital Memorial. Representatives from every Commonwealth species attended, along with survivors of the Kalari genocide and families of the humans who had died fighting. Dr. Young Mi, now Earth's leading physicist, unveiled a new addition to the memorial. It was a holographic display showing Commander Daewon's final message.